Hey guys, tonight we're following a day in the life of someone who lived over 1,000 years ago, but probably complained just like you do when the alarm goes off too early. You're a postal courier in the Tang Dynasty, stationed in the empire's mighty capital of Chang'an. And today, you're the link between emperors and governors, judges and scholars, all while dodging mud puddles and cranky ducks. You carry state secrets, love letters, rice tax disputes, and one overly poetic scroll that somehow smells like lavender. The city hasn't woken yet, but you have. You rise before sunrise, your bones protesting every creak of the bamboo mat beneath you. Cold floor, thin bedding, one mosquito still having a midnight snack on your ankle. Through the lattice window, the horizon glows a slow pink. A rooster crows, too proud of himself, somewhere far too close. Your lodging is modest, wedged behind a shrine and beneath a family of noisy sparrows. You splash your face with a bowl of yesterday's water and blink at your reflection. Tang Dynasty fashion doesn't favor mirrors, but that cracked bronze plate on your shelf tells you the truth. Unwashed hair, sleepy eyes, and a face still smeared with ink from last night's scroll sorting. You dress in the regulation uniform, a rough hemp tunic, dyed just brown enough to match your usual road dust. It itches. Your leather belt is cracked, but holds, just barely. On your hip, a pouch of route permits and border passes. On your back, the sacred satchel, oiled cloth, sturdy seams, and sealed with twine. You never let it out of your sight, mostly because you've been fined before. The air is thick with the smell of sandalwood from a nearby temple, mingling with something more practical. Gruel boiling in the corner stall, served by a vendor already half asleep at his ladle. You buy a bowl, mostly rice, some sort of pickled radish surprise, and settle onto a rickety bench to eat. It's peaceful for a moment, until a sudden thump reminds you, today is delivery day to 3 prefectures, including one judge who once made you recite a poem just to enter his office. You're still mad about that. You glance at the satchel again. It holds scrolls of all kinds, tax reports, palace commands, even a document bearing the plum blossom seal of a noblewoman. That one smells faintly of cloves. You make a mental note not to crush it between the judge's receipts and that suspiciously moist parcel from the Salt Bureau. Fact of the day, the Tang Dynasty Postal system was considered one of the most sophisticated in the world, part of a massive state communication network called the Yichuan Dao. At its peak, it rivaled Rome's Cursus Publicus and connected over 1,600 relay stations across the empire. You, lucky you, are just one of thousands of sweaty cogs. As you stand, stretching your back, a nearby vendor calls, "You deliverin' or sleepwalking?" You grin, wave, and mutter something about needing stronger tea. The city gates open soon. You've got maybe 15 minutes before the streets fill with ox carts and silk traders. You move fast. Outside, Chang'an feels like it's inhaling, quiet, but full of potential chaos. Lanterns flicker out. Doors creak open. Monks begin chanting in the southern district, the sound drifting over tiled rooftops. Someone's banging a wok. It's either breakfast or a family dispute. You don't slow down to check. You take a shortcut through a courtyard where 2 kids are already practicing sword forms with sticks. One of them stops and asks, "Are you the Emperor's messenger?" You smile mysteriously and say, "Only if he writes very small." Quirky tidbit. Some Tang couriers were chosen specifically for their voice clarity, just in case they had to recite messages instead of carrying them. Historians still argue whether this was common or just a strange regional habit. You reach the post house just as the postmaster is unlocking the main gate. He's chewing a sugarcane stalk and gives you that look, the one that says, "I would have fired you last month if I weren't lazier than you." He tosses you a tiny bamboo token, your route approval, and mutters something about yesterday's courier dropping a scroll in the river. You check your satchel one last time. Scrolls, check. Extra twine, check. Directions to that one farm with the dog who hates you. Double check. Your first checkpoint's about an hour's walk from here, and the city guards don't like tardy couriers. Last time, they made you clean the stable. And so, with a sigh, a slurp of smoky tea, and a growing list of things you've already forgotten, you hoist the satchel over your shoulder and step out into the waking streets of the Tang Empire. You step into the belly of Chang'an as the first sunlight slices through roof beams and fluttering banners. The city is alive now, really alive. Everything smells like garlic, ink, wet clay, and ambition. The street is chaos in sandals. Ox carts creak, bamboo bird cages swing from balconies, and someone's always yelling about bean curd specials. A scholar stumbles past muttering something about his examination essays being stolen by spirits. You believe him. Tang bureaucracy can feel that supernatural. You hug the satchel tighter. It's oddly shaped today. There's a rolled-up painting someone insisted be delivered gently, but then sealed it like a mummified dragon scroll. You consider using it as a back brace. But first, tea. You duck into a roadside stall where the kettle's already whistling. It's run by a grumpy uncle who refuses to learn your name, but always pours you the strongest brew in town. Smoky, nearly bitter, with a hint of something floral. Chrysanthemum? Mistrust? You lean against a post, sipping the tea, steam mingling with street dust. A scribe walks past in crisp robes, squinting at the calligraphy on a public notice board. He glances at your courier badge and sneers slightly. There's a quiet class divide between paper senders and paper carriers. Fact: Tang Dynasty postmen weren't technically low status, but they weren't invited to the poetry contests either. Unless, of course, they were good-looking or secretly noble, which you are definitely not. Probably. Tea done, you brace yourself. The postmaster's directions, scribbled on your hand, are already smudged, but you remember the first checkpoint well. A few alley twists, 2 temples, and a shop that sells fake imperial seals for entertainment purposes. As you trudge, the cobbled streets start to thin. You pass a wet market where a man shouts, "Try the eel, still squirming." You pretend not to hear. A toddler throws a scallion at your leg. You bow politely. A dog follows you for half a block, just enough to make you nervous, then peels off to bark at an elderly woman feeding koi. You could write a whole novella about Tang dogs, honestly. Soon, you reach the outer checkpoint, a squat, square building painted in dull reds. A bored clerk lounges behind a desk, flipping through a tally book like it owes him money. He doesn't look up. You clear your throat. He grunts. You present your courier token, satchel seal, and a polite bow. He finally glances up, squints like you're a strangely shaped pigeon, and sighs. Where to? 3 prefectures, 1 judge, 1 merchant guild, and this thing, you say, holding up the oddly fragrant scroll. He does not react. He stamps your papers with flair, twice, for reasons known only to him. Each thump of the red wax seal echoes like a gong of responsibility. Next, he barks to no one in line. You mutter thanks and move on. Quirky tidbit. Some checkpoint officials in the Tang era were said to add poetic flourishes to courier papers out of boredom, an early form of bureaucratic graffiti. One famous seal read, "Approved with mild contempt." As you walk on, you feel a familiar rhythm return. Satchel bouncing lightly, sandal soles slapping the stone. A quiet buzz in your ears that could be enlightenment or dehydration. You dodge a fishmonger sloshing buckets of silver carp and almost collide with a monk riding a donkey. He nods. You nod. The donkey does not. Street by street, the city starts to loosen. More bamboo, fewer tile roofs. The breeze picks up, finally cutting through your sweat. You pause to check your satchel again. Habit, not doubt. Every courier knows that a scroll misplaced is a week's pay gone and a lifetime's shame earned. One time, someone mixed up 2 love letters, a diplomat's wife and a tofu vendor's niece. The fallout still echoes in poetic insults across 3 provinces. Historians still argue whether Tang couriers had secret codes to avoid such mix-ups. Some say they memorized calligraphic fingerprints. Others think it was mostly crossed fingers and dumb luck. You pass a final gate, patrolled by 2 guards who raise an eyebrow but wave you through. One of them mumbles, "Hope the judge is in a better mood today." You don't ask. Beyond the wall, the city thins. Fields spread like sleepy carpets, dew still clinging to every blade. A single willow tree leans dramatically over the path like it knows it's being painted. The next bridge lies ahead, rickety, wood-planked, and possibly cursed. You shift your satchel, take a breath, and press onward. You make it to the willow bridge just as the sun finishes dragging itself up over the horizon. Its rays catch on the river's gentle surface, which is doing its best impersonation of a respectable mirror, if that mirror had ducks fighting on top of it. The bridge is long, slightly bowed, and doesn't exactly scream safe crossing. It's held together by fraying ropes, creaking planks, and presumably hope. Still, it's the only way forward unless you feel like swimming with the carp, which you do not. Not after that eel incident last month. You test your weight on the first plank. It moans like a tired poet. You whisper encouragements, half to yourself, half to the wood. Halfway across, you spot a familiar shape leaning over the railing. Old Monk Y. No one knows where he lives, or if he's actually a monk. He wears the robes, but they're usually full of dried persimmons and off-brand incense. His walking stick is carved with riddles in 4 dialects, and he insists he once delivered mail by pigeon. "Courier," he says, not turning around. "You're 3 minutes later than last week." You blink. "Wasn't I early today?" "Exactly." He turns, grins, and tosses you a sweet bean bun wrapped in prayer paper. You thank him, unsure if you're supposed to eat it or meditate on it. Bandits ahead, he mutters. Or bureaucrats. Hard to tell the difference these days. Before you can ask, he shuffles off in a direction that doesn't appear to exist. Quirky tidbit. There were rumors of unofficial post-guardian monks who blessed couriers or warned them of dangers ahead. Historians still argue whether they were spiritual guides or just lonely retirees with too much free time. You finish crossing and immediately step into mud. Thick, squelchy, ankle-hugging mud that gleefully devours one sandal and tries to make a meal of your dignity. A group of fishwives nearby burst into laughter. They're cleaning nets and debating whether the magistrate's wife wears a wig. One of them winks and calls out, "Looking good, mail boy." You offer a dramatic bow, retrieve your sandal, now 30% heavier, and trudge on, squishing like an undercooked dumpling. The path narrows between two rice paddies, buzzing with dragonflies. Your route curves beside a small family shrine painted red and gold, where 3 paper cranes hang from the eaves. You bow instinctively. There's something comforting about roadside shrines. They're like spiritual rest stops. A farmer waves at you from a field holding up a gourd with water scratched into it. You nod gratefully, sip, and nearly spit. It's fermented, or cursed, possibly both. You thank him anyway, because hospitality counts, even if it tastes like regret. By late morning, the city noise has faded completely. Just wind, insects, and the occasional distant flute from a passing traveler who's clearly trying to summon their inner tragic hero. You roll your eyes, then hum along. Your satchel feels heavier now. That one letter sealed with gold thread keeps shifting strangely. You wonder what's in it. Probably not your business. But curiosity itches louder than your tunic. Fact. The Tang postal system was both civil and military. Couriers could be summoned to carry military intelligence in times of conflict, meaning a day that starts with a tax report might end in a war message. You're 80% sure today is not that kind of day. The road forks ahead. You pause at a small waypost carved with 3 directions, none of which are helpful unless you know that Crow Hill is code for the one with the broken fence. A small bird lands on your scroll pouch, chirps aggressively, and leaves. You take it as a bad omen or just excellent timing. As you round the next bend, the ground changes underfoot. Gravel, then cobblestone. You've reached the outer village market, which smells like a mix of onions, firewood, and ambition. You're not due for a delivery here, but the salt merchants are setting up stalls, and one of them owes you lunch. You spot him. Biao, wide-shouldered, loud, and always wearing a tunic that screams, "I don't believe in subtlety." He waves you over, already grinning. "Courier. Still alive, I see." "Barely," you reply. "Bridge nearly sang me to death." He hands you a turnip bun and gestures to an overturned crate. You sit, unwrapping your lunch and wondering if turnip counts as a vegetable or punishment. "You hear about the courier in Luoyang?" Biao asks between mouthfuls. "Said a scroll exploded." "Metaphorically?" "Nope. Black powder." You chew slower. Historians still argue whether exploding scroll traps were ever actually used in Tang courier networks or are just exciting fiction. Either way, you now open letters with extreme caution. You finish lunch just as 2 goats start fighting over a sack of millet, knocking over a brazier in the process. Someone yells, "Not again," and a bystander tosses a cabbage like it's a solution. Time to move on. You shake Biao's hand, thank him, and adjust your satchel again. He calls after you. "Tell the judge his salted duck is late." You smile. You'll forget to tell him. As tradition demands. You rejoin the road, stomach full, sandals drying, and a half-crushed bean bun still warm in your pouch. The next stretch will be tougher. Steep hills, loose stones, and more than one tale of angry dogs with a taste for leather belts. But for now, the sun is kind. The air smells like cinnamon bark, and your bag hasn't burst open. That's a win. The market behind you fades into birdsong and wind as you climb the first real incline of the day. The road narrows into a rocky trail dotted with patches of stubborn grass and the occasional pile of something that strongly suggests a mule passed through recently. Probably a smug one. The incline is deceiving. It doesn't look steep, but your thighs know better. The satchel digs into your shoulder. You shift it to the other side, then back again, trying to find the perfect position. There is none. As you press forward, you reach a checkpoint outpost nestled between two chestnut trees. It looks peaceful enough. Red-tiled roof, faded flag flapping in the breeze, and a bored bureaucrat seated at a bamboo desk, scribbling with a brush that's seen better days. "Name and route?" he asks without looking up. You offer your documents, trying not to pant too loudly. He sniffs, then finally glances up and says, "Ah, the courier who delivered that scroll last month to the wrong Yang." "It was one character off," you say. They were both scholars. "One of them was a monk," he mutters. "Still hasn't forgiven you." He stamps your token with theatrical slowness and slides it back with a faint smirk. Then, as you turn to leave, "Careful, wild dogs ahead." You nod, half hoping it's a joke. It is not. Quirky tidbit. The Tang court once issued a short-lived policy assigning watchdogs to protect couriers along risky routes. It failed when the dogs began following the couriers home instead. Some simply became adopted postal mascots. The trail climbs steadily now. You're officially leaving the outer village boundary and entering real countryside, rolling hills, fragrant pine, and absolutely no witnesses if you fall face first into the ditch. The sun rises higher, baking the path into a series of small traps for your sandals. Sweat starts to trickle into your eyebrows. A fly lands on your ear, claims it as territory, and refuses eviction. You pause near a shaded stone marker and chug from your gourd. The water's warm but comforting. As you rest, you spot movement up ahead. A wild dog, or at least something with a tail and a suspicious attitude. It sees you. You see it. You freeze. It sniffs, snorts, and promptly lies down. Crisis? Avoided? You tiptoe past, offering it a piece of that bean bun Monk Huai gave you. It sniffs again, turns its head, and mutters something in dog, probably peasant. You move on quickly. The path dips again, revealing a winding series of terraced fields. Farmers in conical hats work quietly, their hoes rhythmically slicing the soil. One of them waves. You wave back, resisting the urge to yell, "Want to trade jobs?" One of your deliveries is tucked deep in the pouch, wrapped in oilcloth and marked for a herbalist in the mountains. No one really knows what's in it. Rumor says he once cured a governor's gout with pickled lotus and goat tears. You don't ask questions anymore. Fact. The Tang courier system operated not just for government communications, but for approved private parties, including merchants, monks, and physicians. These weren't mailmen in the modern sense, but imperial cogs with decent calves. You find yourself humming as you walk, partly to stay awake, partly to keep animals away. The tune is old, learned from another courier who claimed it once made a bandit weep. You suspect that was due more to tone deafness than artistry. Speaking of bandits, you round a bend and spot two figures lounging by the road. One is playing a flute. The other is sharpening something that is either a sword or a very angry spoon. You grip your satchel tighter and slow your pace. "Courier?" the flutist asks, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," you say carefully. "Anything interesting?" "Only if you're a fan of grain tax reform." They glance at each other and laugh. "We're retired," the sharpener says. "We used to rob. Now we collect gossip." You relax slightly, but only slightly. Retired bandits are still bandits, just with stories and possibly a podcast. "You know," the flutist continues, "the real treasure is in the poetry people write in the margins of their letters. That's the good stuff." You nod. "I'll keep that in mind. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a judge to disappoint." They wave you on, apparently satisfied. You walk faster than dignity would prefer. Historians still argue whether Tang couriers were ever taught to memorize scrolls in case of theft or destruction. Some say yes. Others believe that's just Tang-era action fiction. Back on the road, the trees thicken around you. Bamboo groves rustle softly, as if gossiping about your poor posture. A squirrel drops a nut at your feet. You consider it a blessing or a warning. You begin the slow descent into a low valley. The air is cooler here, scented with wild ginger and some kind of flowering vine. The path winds down toward a stone footbridge over a narrow stream, where red dragonflies dart and hover like tiny aerial guards. You cross the bridge, shoes now dry but scuffed beyond fashion. You look ahead. The midday checkpoint is close, tucked into a grove of cypress trees. There's no guard this time, just a wooden box to log your passage and a carved turtle statue that legend says watches dishonest travelers. You scratch your name into the travel log, bow to the turtle, and breathe deeply. Half your journey lies ahead. So do rumors of a rogue judge, a cursed scroll, and, if the stories are true, a hermit who taxes couriers in riddles. But for now, you walk. By the time you reach the bottom of the valley, the trail has leveled out, and your legs are quietly plotting mutiny. The air is damp here, but shaded, cool enough to offer some relief. A soft breeze rustles through the cypress canopy, and for a moment, the world forgets it's supposed to be difficult. You hear rushing water before you see it. A modest river meanders along the edge of the path, its surface littered with floating blossoms from a tree you can't quite name, but feel strangely nostalgic for. The riverbanks are dotted with stone stools and mossy posts, remnants of a roadside tea stand that's clearly seen better dynasties. The trail winds toward a hamlet known as Peach Nest Crossing. You've only been through once before. Last time, a chicken chased you through the square. You'd like to believe things have improved. Spoiler, they haven't. As you approach the main path, a sudden burst of chatter and splashing water hits your ears. It's market day. Farmers, vendors, travelers, all clustered near the central bridge. Your timing, as always, is cursed. The Willow Bridge, misnamed since it's more rope and luck than wood, hangs loosely over the river's narrowest bend. A young woman stands mid-span, flinging fish guts into the current with the casual confidence of someone who knows she's allowed to make a mess. You inch onto the bridge, balancing your satchel and your pride. Midway across, she looks up. "You look like you smell like mule," she says. "I prefer forest musk," you reply. She snorts and gestures behind her. "Old Monk Huai came through earlier. Said you'd be limping." "That's optimism," you mutter. She grins and lets you pass. Quirky tidbit. Some Tang postal routes were mapped so precisely that couriers were expected to hit specific bridges by specific hours of the day, or else submit a formal explanation. One recorded excuse: "Bridge insulted my sandals." Off the bridge, you step into the open square, where a carp vendor is loudly arguing with a tea seller over territory. You slip past unnoticed, at least until a child yells, "Mail guy!" and throws a peach pit that bounces off your knee. "You're losing your aim," you call back, and the kid beams. Your real target in this village isn't a vendor or official. It's a lone courier marker carved into a shrine wall. It confirms your trail is on track and, more importantly, points to a tiny shrine hidden up the next slope. You head there, curious. The shrine is dedicated to Zhao the Sky Breather, a semi-mythical courier from 1,000 years ago who allegedly delivered a message by sprinting across tree branches. Real or not, he's now the unofficial patron saint of postal workers with delusions of grandeur. You bow out of respect, or maybe superstition, and slip a coin into the offering jar. The space is quiet, incense sweet, and shaded just enough that you feel your eyes droop. You sit on the shrine's step, lean your back against its cool stone, and before you know it, you nap. You nap hard. You dream of scrolls with wings, of postmasters arguing in rhyme, of a dragon politely asking if you have anything addressed to the celestial emperor. You wake with a start 20 minutes later, mouth dry, scrolls intact, dignity barely so. Fact: Tang couriers were known to use roadside shrines as rest stops, though naps were technically discouraged. Still, several ancient travel logs note mysterious gaps in memory that scholars kindly attribute to meditation. As you shake off sleep, you realize someone left a small bundle of dried plum slices next to your satchel. A thank you? A blessing? A trap? You eat too and decide to believe in kindness. Refreshed, relatively, you dust yourself off and continue along the path. The trail here is narrower, lined with flowering bushes and tall reeds. Crickets chirp, birds call, and somewhere nearby, a donkey is aggressively braying at its own reflection in a pond. You pass a pair of traveling monks debating the ethics of soup. One nods at you. The other points at your satchel and says, "If that contains enlightenment, I'll take it steamed." You smile, wave, and don't break stride. The path veers up again, climbing into hilly farmland. Distant rooftops gleam in the sun. Your next major stop. the office of a prefectural judge who owns far too many poetry scrolls and not enough shoes. You adjust your satchel, hum a marching tune you learned from a retired soldier, and think about the mystery scroll. Gold thread, heavy wax seal, no return address. Probably harmless. Definitely none of your business. Probably. Historians still argue whether Tang postal couriers were occasionally used to transport royal edicts without knowing the contents. Some letters changed governors, others condemned traitors. The stories never end with, "and the courier got a raise." As you crest the next ridge, the judge's courtyard comes into view. Red gate, hanging lanterns, and a cat that may or may not be a legal clerk. Time to deliver, nod politely, and pretend to understand his latest haiku about turnips. But first, you chew the last of your dried plums and feel almost human again. You arrive at the prefectural judge's compound just as a breeze rolls down the hill, scattering a few loose petals across the courtyard like nature's passive-aggressive greeting. The gate stands open, flanked by two statues of lions who look like they're mid-yawn. Appropriate, given the energy levels around here. You step into the courtyard. It's quiet. Too quiet. And then, tap, 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 the unmistakable sound of wooden sandals on tile. A small, balding man in layered silk robes appears from behind a screen. He's holding a fan. Indoors. Not fanning himself, just holding it for dramatic effect. "Ah," he says. The ink-footed wanderer returns. You bow respectfully. "Your Honor." He raises a brow. "Still allergic to metaphor, I see." You suppress a sigh. This is Judge Pang, a man who once sentenced a goat for trespassing and then wrote a sonnet about it. He's harmless, unless you value brevity. "I have your documents," you say, carefully removing the tied packet from your satchel. 2 legal notices, 1 signed grain levy adjustment, and a requisition request for, you glance at the log, 8 large ceramic chamber pots. He clasps his hands. Glorious. He does not take the documents. Instead, he gestures to a nearby bench. "Sit, sit. Let us not rush the moment. First, haiku." You know how this works. Quirky tidbit. During the Tang Dynasty, poetry wasn't just entertainment. It was status. Even judges were expected to compose and recite verse, especially during official proceedings. Some postal couriers, sadly, became their unwilling test audiences. You sit, adjusting your posture for optimal politeness/endurance. The judge clears his throat. "Wind through lonely gate, paper folded, tight with truth. Couriers don't smile." You nod slowly. "Very seasonal." He beams. "You're learning." Then, as if this ritual were entirely normal, he takes the documents with both hands, carefully inspects the seals, and slides them into a scroll rack shaped like a dragon doing taxes. "I see you've brought something extra," he murmurs, eyeing the gold-threaded scroll tucked behind your satchel strap. You shift slightly. "Not for you, I'm afraid." "Royal seal?" You nod. "Dangerous business. I once held a scroll like that. Turned out to be a recipe." You raise an eyebrow. "For poison," he adds. "Delicious, though." Historians still argue whether Tang couriers were ever exposed to classified materials by accident. One popular account involves a courier who was arrested for sneezing on a sacred poem. Another, more believable tale says a scroll once leaked perfume so strongly it caused a diplomatic incident. You thank Judge Pang and rise to leave. "Wait," he calls, holding up a hand. You freeze. He pulls out another piece of parchment. "One more verse. For the road." You close your eyes and brace. He recites. You nod. You clap lightly. You leave. Outside the gate, you exhale. The air is fresher out here, less metaphor. You stretch your arms, feel the creak of your spine, and adjust your satchel. A few steps down the path, you're joined by an old man leading a donkey laden with baskets of mushrooms. He hums a tune you vaguely recognize, something about river spirits and fermented tofu. "Courier?" he asks. "Yes." "Good job." That's all. He walks on, the donkey nodding like a sleepy scholar. You begin the twilight leg of your route. The sun dips behind a hill, turning the sky to honey and fire. Long shadows stretch across the rice fields. Crickets warm up their evening chorus. Fireflies test their glow. You follow the ridge trail, the land sloping gently away on both sides. Ducks honk in a distant pond. You do not wave back. Your sandals slap quietly against the packed earth. The satchel's weight has become familiar now, part of your silhouette. A bird swoops low overhead. You duck out of instinct, then laugh at yourself. There's something meditative about this stretch. No checkpoints, no merchants. Just the road, your thoughts, and the occasional stray cow. Fact: many Tang postal routes were designed to follow natural rhythms. Sunrise to checkpoint, noon for documents, sunset for relay. Some couriers traveled alone, others in pairs. Most learned to walk in silence so they could hear everything else. You take a detour to avoid a flooded path and find yourself beside a small bamboo grove. Wind sings through the stalks. It's oddly musical. You pause there, not because you're tired, though you are, but because it's nice. A frog croaks nearby. You croak back. It goes silent. You win. As twilight deepens, you spot the lights of the next relay station ahead. A soft orange glow, smoke rising from a chimney, the silhouette of a man warming his hands beside a brazier. It smells like cooked rice, pine smoke, and the promise of less walking. You quicken your pace, feet sore, but spirit slightly lighter. Another village, another story, and maybe, just maybe, a bath that doesn't involve a river or judgmental eels. The relay station ahead stands like a sleepy outpost of civilization. Wattle walls, stone base, and a roof that always looks one good storm away from deciding it's a boat. But tonight, the lanterns glow warm. The smell of steamed barley rice floats invitingly through the air, and your feet are moments away from bursting into spontaneous protest songs. You reach the gate and give 3 firm knocks, as required. A young relay worker peeks out, eyes tired, robe inside out, hair absolutely losing an argument with gravity. He recognizes your satchel immediately and lets you in with a grunt that probably means hello. Inside, the station is sparse but comforting. A brazier glows in the center. A pot bubbles on top, releasing a smell that's either miso soup or something more experimental. You nod politely at the two other couriers already there, one snoring on a bamboo mat, the other slowly removing a wooden splinter the size of a chopstick from her heel. You drop your satchel on the bench, exhale through your teeth, and stretch your back with a sound you're not legally allowed to make twice in one evening. Long route? The splinter courier asks. 3 prefectures, 1 judge, 1 scroll that might bite. She nods in solidarity and offers you a tiny square of candied ginger. You chew it like it's sacred. The young relay worker, now slightly more upright, shuffles over and asks for your dispatch seal. You pass it over. He scans the log, checks your weight estimate on the satchel, and raises an eyebrow at the golden thread scroll. Priority? He asks. Very. Special handling? Don't let the donkey eat it, you reply. He grunts again, which this time definitely means noted. Fact. Tang relay stations were positioned roughly 30 to 40 li, about 15 to 20 kilometers, apart, and operated 24/7, allowing for rapid handoffs between couriers. Some elite messages crossed the empire in a matter of days, especially when carried by a rotating crew of runners or riders. While your scroll gets locked in the relay's message chest, you sneak a quick bite of hot barley rice, generously overcooked and filled with something chewy that might once have been a mushroom. The station doesn't have baths, just a large wooden basin in the corner with water that's slightly warmer than disappointment. You splash your face, clean your hands, and seriously consider dunking your whole head before deciding you're not emotionally prepared for that. Then it's back on the road. The sun's almost gone now, just a pink smear across the sky. You light your oil lamp, adjust the wick, and continue. The night walk is cooler. Your shadow stretches out in front of you, oddly comforting, like a quiet companion with terrible posture. You hum softly, the tune half forgotten, half invented. Around you, frogs begin their chorus. Fireflies blink in rhythm. Somewhere nearby, a bamboo chime sways lazily on a porch. The road slopes gently downward, following a narrow stream that glints silver in the lamplight. The fields on either side are nearly invisible, but you can smell the rice stalks, earthy, damp, and just a bit sour. It smells like life. Tired, soggy life. Then, a rustle. Your heart skips. You pause. From the underbrush emerges a boar. Not a big one. More like a pig with ambition. It snorts, eyes your satchel, and wanders off, leaving behind only the faintest judgment. You breathe again. Quirky tidbit. Tang couriers sometimes traveled armed, not with swords, but with signal sticks, bells, or slings. One recovered courier toolkit included emergency dried prunes and a whistle shaped like a goose. Scholars still argue whether these were defensive tools or morale boosters. The road curves toward a cliffside shrine, a place you recognize. It's tiny, just a carved alcove and a weather-worn statue of a moon goddess, her features faded but still watching. You bow out of instinct, then leave a pebble on the offering pile. It's tradition. From here, the final leg to the village is all downhill. You tighten the strap on your satchel, lighter now but still loaded with the mysterious imperial scroll, and start walking again. Your legs hurt. Your feet feel like steamed buns left too long in the basket. But your pace quickens, knowing that soon you'll reach the village by the rice paddies, your last delivery point before nightfall. The first light you spot is from a floating lantern, a soft amber globe drifting just above the fields. Someone must be celebrating a birthday or a seasonal feast. You watch it bob and glow, like a firefly with ambition. Then come the village sounds. Laughter, a distant flute, the bark of a dog that doesn't sound hostile, just opinionated, You cross a small wooden bridge with carved fish motifs, their eyes worn smooth by weather and time. The water below gurgles peacefully. Everything slows. You arrive at the delivery house, a modest building with a gently curving roof, red-painted trim, and an elderly man waiting on the porch with a bowl of warm water for your feet. He doesn't say a word, just nods, gestures, and goes inside. You sit, you soak. The water smells faintly of ginger and camphor. Your blisters thank you in a dozen tiny voices. Historians still argue whether rural villagers along postal routes were instructed or simply volunteered to assist traveling couriers. Some say it was part of an unspoken national service. Others suggest couriers just looked too pathetic to ignore. The stars appear overhead, crisp and clear, and you suddenly realize how far from the capital you've come. Tomorrow, another courier will carry the scroll further, another satchel, another road, another footbath in another village. But tonight, you've earned the right to stare at the sky, let your muscles unwind, and wonder what it's all for. Spoiler, it's for the scrolls. Always the scrolls. Morning returns like an uninvited guest, quiet at first, then annoyingly persistent. A rooster crows in the distance, followed by a coughing fit from someone who clearly isn't a morning person. You blink awake, still seated in the chair outside the delivery house, your feet long since pruned from soaking, your back now shaped like a question mark. Inside, the kindly old man has left a tray, a bowl of rice porridge, a hard-boiled egg, and something you think used to be a pickled plum before it changed careers. You eat gratefully, watching mist drift lazily across the rice paddies. Ducks waddle in formation like feathered bureaucrats. One glares at you. You're used to this. You set off slowly. The road ahead curls into the hills like a scroll half unfurling. The satchel is lighter now, but the imperial scroll still shifts inside it like it knows you're thinking about it. Gold thread, heavy seal, no name. You don't dare ask. You don't dare peek. But you do wonder. The path takes you into a wooded glade, shaded by tall pine and early sunlight filtering through in thin golden ribbons. It's quiet, suspiciously quiet. No birds, no frogs, just your own footsteps and the soft swish of your satchel's flap. Then you hear it. Music. Not the distant flute of farmers or a child playing with a reed pipe. This is practiced, melodic, and oddly melancholic. You follow the sound. Through a break in the trees, you stumble upon a clearing, and in it, a man sitting on a mossy rock playing a two-stringed erhu. His robes are patched silk, his hair half tied in a scholar's knot, and beside him rests a curved knife. Oh, bandit. You freeze. He doesn't stop playing. You're early, he says, eyes still closed. You clear your throat. You were expecting someone? He opens one eye, squints at you, and sighs. Courier, obviously. I was hoping for the one who sings. You don't sing. He shrugs and sets down the instrument. Well, let's see it then. You clutch the satchel. See what? He smiles. Oh, come now. I'm not that kind of bandit. You hesitate. He chuckles. Relax. I'm not after your gold-threaded scroll. A pause. Though I am curious. Quirky tidbit. Some Tang couriers did in fact have friendly relationships with local bandits, especially ones stationed in remote areas. Historians still argue whether this was a survival tactic or just a case of shared loneliness in the empire's backwaters. You sit on a log opposite him, your satchel safely beside you. He offers a piece of dried lotus root. You chew cautiously. It's surprisingly good. He picks up the erhu again, tuning slowly. I used to be a clerk, you know. Bureau of Weights and Measures. You blink. That's specific. He nods. Got tired of counting grain bags and measuring axles. Took to the hills. Now I rob only the wealthy and occasionally flirt with overworked messengers. You raise an eyebrow. He smiles. Well, you say, no grain bags in here today. Just bad poetry, and maybe a revolution in scroll form. He strums a slow note. Better than axle math. The conversation drifts. You exchange stories. He tells you about a magistrate who tried to bribe him with pickled duck. You tell him about the time a noblewoman mailed herself, folded in a barrel. Neither of you are sure who's lying more. Eventually you stand. He does too. No toll, you ask. He shakes his head. Just leave me with a line of poetry. Any line. Something useless and beautiful. You think for a moment, then recite, The moon forgets the mountain it rose from. So must we forget our load. He nods. That's awful. I love it. You wave goodbye. He bows with a flourish, picks up his erhu, and resumes playing as you disappear down the trail. The road climbs sharply after that, a winding ascent through scrubby brush and loose stone. You pass a small herd of goats, one of whom eyes your satchel with criminal intent. You veer off the path briefly, crossing a narrow stream where someone has left a note scrawled on a stone. Turn back if you seek answers. Keep going if you seek noodles. You keep going. You're a professional. Soon you reach a fork in the road, one path paved and descending toward a village, the other narrow and overgrown, leading into dense woods. Your orders say West Pass. Of course, no one told you which one is west. You check the sun. You guess. Fact: many Tang routes lacked formal markers, relying instead on oral tradition, local landmarks, or half-accurate paintings etched onto station walls. This often led to delays, missed deliveries, and at least one accidental courier who ended up in Tibet with a love poem for a girl in Hangzhou. You choose the overgrown path. It's quiet, eerie, and full of the kind of bugs that think eyelids are picnic spots. You walk for nearly an hour, alone with your thoughts. You think of home, of your favorite roadside tea stand, of Judge Pang's truly terrible haiku. You think about the scroll, not what's in it, that you refuse to guess. but who it's for. You pass a small cave with a shrine inside, a flickering lamp, a coiled incense stick, and a statue of a horse with wings. You leave behind one of your last coins. You also leave behind a little of your doubt. You're nearly at the next station. And whatever's in that scroll, it's nearly ready to leave your hands. The path spits you out at the edge of a steep hillside, revealing the relay station below, half hidden in mist, perched beside a bamboo grove that sways like it's whispering secrets to itself. You pause to catch your breath, shoes packed with enough dirt to start a small farm, knees clicking like castanets with every shift in weight. The descent is brutal. Loose rocks slide beneath your feet. Bamboo stalks slap you with the enthusiasm of forgotten cousins, and you land on your backside twice before finally reaching flat ground with the grace of a collapsed puppet. A rooster watches you recover, unimpressed. You limp to the station gate and knock. No response. You knock again, louder this time. Still nothing. You lean your ear to the wood, hear the distant clatter of what could be dice, and then, finally, the door creaks open to reveal a sleepy-looking woman in courier robes, half a rice dumpling in her mouth. "You're early," she mumbles, chewing. "By whose clock?" "By mine, which is the only one that matters when I'm cooking." You bow, present your documents, and pass off a small bundle of scrolls for redistribution. Then you hesitate. She notices. "What's with the gold thread one?" "It's not on my drop list," you say. She shrugs. "Then it rides with you." You sigh. Of course it does. Fact. In the Tang Postal network, certain sensitive scrolls required hand delivery from start to finish, even if the route stretched over several provinces. These were sometimes wrapped in special seals or threads to deter tampering, or at least pretend to. The woman waves you inside, offers a bamboo mat and a cup of tepid tea that tastes like the memory of herbs. You rest briefly, listening to her recount a tale of the courier who accidentally delivered a divorce petition to a monk. It ended somehow with a goat inheriting a house. You leave before she gets to the punchline. The next leg is short but strange. The forest thickens almost immediately. Light becomes a suggestion rather than a fact. Bird calls echo in strange loops. A fox crosses your path, looks you up and down like a very small, very fluffy tax official, then vanishes into the underbrush. You follow the barely there trail, pushing aside branches, ducking under vines, and trying very hard not to think about whether this was the path you took last time, or the one you were told to avoid. After a while, the trees part just enough to reveal a small clearing, a stone circle in the center, moss-covered and old. Sitting beside it is an old man in a straw hat, tending a kettle over a modest fire. He looks up. "Courier?" "Yes." He gestures for you to sit. You do, mostly out of curiosity and maybe fatigue. He pours you a cup of tea that smells like mint and regret. "You're carrying a sealed scroll," he says, not asking. "Yes." He nods. "Don't open it." "Wasn't planning to." "Even if it sings to you." "Sings?" He sips. "Some messages do." You sip your tea. It's good, slightly bitter, like all good truths. Quirky tidbit. Tales from rural couriers occasionally mention whisper scrolls, letters believed to be cursed or blessed with voices. Some say the scrolls whispered the future. Others say they just made annoying, high-pitched humming sounds during the full moon. Scholars mostly roll their eyes, but a few privately admit they've heard things. After tea, the man offers no goodbye. You bow and move on, deeper into the trees, the road barely a road now, just a suggestion in the earth and a memory in your feet. Eventually, the forest spits you out onto a narrow footbridge crossing a churning stream. Water crashes over rocks below like it's auditioning for a thunderstorm. The bridge sways as you walk, each step a test of confidence and ankle loyalty. You make it across. You always do. The path ascends again, curving up a winding mountain trail flanked by whispering reeds and low stone shrines. Somewhere up ahead is a courier marker carved into the cliffside. A bird with one wing outstretched, its beak open in song. You touch it for luck. The village ahead is small. 4 houses, a granary, a communal bathhouse you've mentally bookmarked, and a relay bench outside the shrine. You approach, expecting to hand off your satchel, but the bench is empty. No new courier, no replacement, no one. You wait. Nothing. Eventually, an old woman steps out of a nearby hut and eyes you like she's seen too many of your kind. "Your runner hasn't arrived yet," she says. "You'll have to hold the scroll overnight." You nod. You know the rules. You also know what it means to sleep with an imperial scroll under your head. You find a corner in the shrine's open-air pavilion, lay out your mat, and stare at the ceiling. The stars peek through the rafters, cold and distant. You don't open the scroll, but you do wonder again who it's for. A lover? A traitor? A monk with a secret? Historians still argue whether certain Tang scrolls were so dangerous that no one ever wanted to deliver them. There are stories, quiet ones, of couriers who turned off the path and vanished, scroll in hand, taking imperial truths into the hills forever. But you're not one of those. You're tired, you're hungry, and you're scheduled to reach the last station by noon tomorrow. You close your eyes and dream of singing scrolls. Dawn seeps into the mountain village like tea through old parchment, slow, warm, inevitable. A rooster crows again. It's always a rooster. You open your eyes to the faint smell of incense and damp wood. Your back has merged with the shrine floorboards in a union that neither party finds satisfying. The imperial scroll lies nestled beside you, wrapped tight, heavy with secrets. You didn't sleep well. Who would, with what might be a royal edict, a death warrant, or just an unusually poetic weather report whispering softly beneath their ribs all night? You sit up, brush the pine needles from your robe, and stretch. Every joint offers its own opinion on your lifestyle choices. No sign of the replacement courier. Still. The old woman emerges from her hut with a bowl of congee and a look that says, "I warned you," without needing to speak. You thank her. She shrugs and returns inside. You eat slowly, savoring each spoonful like it might be the last meal before a historic mistake. The scroll lies across your lap, silent, weighty, unblinking. Then you make your decision. You'll carry it, all the way. You're not just a link in the chain anymore. You're the whole delivery. The next leg takes you through winding hills, sun climbing behind you, turning shadows long and lean across the red dirt trail. A few birds flit overhead, chirping like they're in on the secret. You pass a shrine, a half-collapsed tea house, and what used to be a goat stable, now occupied by a very territorial goose. You steer clear. The trail splits, one path toward the next official relay, the other toward a detour village, barely a dot on your route scroll, but marked with a seal. You check your orders. One delivery due there, a scroll with a red ribbon, addressed simply to Magistrate's Assistant. You follow the fork. The road narrows into a pebble-strewn lane, curving through bamboo thickets and past a stream that chatters like an over-caffeinated scholar. The village appears like a mirage. Low walls, thatched roofs, smoke curling from 2 chimneys, and a dog already barking like it's been rehearsing. A young woman greets you outside the magistrate's house. "You're the courier?" she asks, brushing flour from her hands. You nod, presenting the red ribbon scroll. She takes it carefully, bows, and then pauses. "You're carrying something else," she says, eyes flicking to your satchel. You freeze. "Yes." "Important?" "Imperial." She nods. "Then you should speak to the shrine keeper before you go." You raise an eyebrow. "Why?" "He gives blessings to those who carry more than messages." You're not sure if she means that literally or spiritually, but when you finish your kanji and stretch your legs, you head toward the shrine anyway. It's tucked beneath a tall cedar tree, old and weathered, the paint peeling, but the spirit unmistakably intact. The keeper is there, thin, bearded, eyes closed, sitting beside a bowl of rice and an old drum. You bow. He doesn't move. "I'm just passing through," you say. Still nothing. You turn to go, but then, softly, he speaks. "What you carry was written in anger." You stop. "How do you know that?" "Because I've heard it before." You hesitate. "It's sealed. All things leak." He opens one eye. "Don't read it, but don't forget it either." You bow again, unsure if you've received a blessing or a warning, or both. Quirky tidbit. Tang-era scrolls were sometimes wrapped in coded seals. Color, knot type, and ribbon length could indicate urgency, emotion, or tone. Imperial red thread was often used to mark documents sent in haste or grief. Historians still argue whether the colors were symbolic or just the only dye left that week. Back on the road, the path flattens into wide, open farmland. Fields stretch in every direction, golden with millet and swaying rice. A water wheel clanks nearby. A child waves from atop a haystack. You wave back, smile. Forget yourself for a moment. Then the sky darkens. Not a storm, cloudless above, but a shadow of a different kind. You've reached the boundary stones. These low markers mean you're approaching the outskirts of the imperial prefecture, the zone closest to the capital, where scrolls are watched and couriers wade with more than just satchels. You touch the gold thread scroll again, almost unconsciously. Its edges are soft now from where your fingers have pressed, its seal unbroken. But you feel it, tension, a hum, like a coiled sentence waiting to be spoken. You wonder again who it's for. and what happens when it arrives. Fact: Tang law was clear. Any courier caught opening, altering, or even pausing unnecessarily with an imperial dispatch faced severe penalties, ranging from demotion to exile to, in rare cases, execution. Still, not every scroll made it. Some disappeared. Some arrived blank. You pass a line of trees and emerge into a quiet field. A traveler sits under a tree, painting the landscape with ink and brush. He doesn't look up as you pass, but says, "Not much further." You pause. "Do I know you?" He smiles faintly. "No, but I know where you're going." You nod, then walk on. The trail winds upward once more, rising toward the horizon, where the outline of the next relay station crests against the setting sun. You tighten your grip on the satchel. The journey is nearly over. But the message? It might just be beginning. You reach the outer walls of the relay station just as the sun dips beneath the hills, painting the sky in soft layers of apricot and faded gold. The gate is open, a rare sight and not entirely reassuring. You approach slowly, boots caked with dust, scroll tugging gently at your side like a child asking not to be forgotten. Inside, it's strangely still, too quiet. No footsteps, no greetings, just the smell of oil, ink, and something faintly metallic, like rain on bronze. You call out. No answer. Then, from a shadowed corner, a voice. "Courier?" You jump slightly. A man in plain robes steps forward. Not in uniform. No courier sash. But he holds a clay teacup and seems unfazed by your reaction. You nod. Yes. He studies you, then glances at your satchel. It's still sealed. Of course. Good. He gestures toward a bench. Rest. The one you're waiting for is late, or early, depending on how you measure time. You sit, slowly, cautiously. "Are you the station master?" He shakes his head. "I'm just a reader." You raise an eyebrow. Of what? Intent. Of course. Mysterious relay station philosophers. You should have guessed. He pours you tea. The smell is sharp. Ginseng, perhaps, or something stronger. You sip anyway. Tastes like someone ground determination into a leaf. Then he says, "Do you know what you're carrying?" You hesitate. "I know it's imperial, sealed, gold thread." That's not an answer. It's the only one I'm allowed to give. He nods, as if that's fair. Quirky tidbit. There were once tales of ghost scribes in the Tang bureaucracy, officials who transcribed sensitive edicts and then vanished from records entirely. Historians still argue whether these were real agents, mythical symbols, or simply very overworked interns. You sip again. The station around you is quiet but alive. Scroll racks line the walls, each marked with elegant brushstrokes. A series of bells hang from the rafters, swaying slightly in the breeze, but not ringing. You count 13. Always an unlucky number, unless you're superstitious in the other direction. "Are you going to open it?" the reader asks. You blink. "No, Have you ever wanted to? You pause. Every day. He smiles, like that's the answer he wanted. Then another figure appears at the door. A young courier, winded, satchel light, face flushed from running. I'm here, she says breathlessly. Sorry. The reader nods. It's all right. You're not late, just new. She bows to you. I'm to take the dispatch. You hesitate, hand hovering over the satchel. This is the moment, the transfer, the unburdening. And yet, your name? You ask. She blinks. Lay. Route? Straight to the Office of Records, Inner Court. You nod. Do you know what you're carrying? She shrugs slightly. Whatever they don't want us to know. A fair answer. You hand it over. She accepts the satchel with both hands, bows, and turns to go. You watch her disappear into the darkening trail beyond the station gate, her lamp flickering like a distant star. Gone. It's out of your hands now. And suddenly, you feel both lighter and more exposed, like a man who just walked out of a confessional, but forgot to bring his shoes. Fact. The Tang postal system relied heavily on trust. There were no envelopes, no wax stamps that couldn't be imitated, no surveillance. Just people. Feet on the road, ink on paper, and the hope that everyone along the chain played their part. You sit in silence with the reader. He says nothing more. Neither do you. Eventually, he rises and places something beside you. A scroll. Blank. A brush. An inkwell. For your own message, he says. No seal. No thread. Just truth. You stare at it. What would I write? He shrugs. Start with what you wished the scroll had said. You sit for a while, fingers on the brush, not yet moving. Then you write. The road is long, the scroll is heavy, but the steps are mine. You leave the scroll on the bench. You leave the station without another word. The road back to the village is quiet. Lanterns sway gently in doorways. A dog barks once. A baby cries. Somewhere, someone sings. You walk slower now. No satchel. No secrets. Just the rhythm of your own thoughts echoing in your feet. There's no bed waiting for you. No pay raise. No medal. Just another day on the road. And for once, that's enough. You descend the slope with the easy rhythm of someone who's carried too many scrolls and not enough praise. Your shoulders ache out of habit, even though the satchel's gone. It's strange. After days of trudging with that burden, your back now feels suspiciously free, almost too free. You keep reaching for it, only to grasp empty air. The road is wide here, curving gently past terraced fields filled with amber rice ready for harvest. The stalks ripple in rows like dancers mid-bough, and every gust of wind hums through them like a soft whisper. Almost there. You pass an old farmer guiding an ox cart loaded with bundles of straw. He nods, then squints. You're a courier? Was, just now. He chuckles. You look like you lost something important. You glance up. Maybe I did. Or maybe you left it exactly where it needed to go. Further ahead, a line of juniper trees shades the road. Someone's tied red ribbons to one of the branches. They flap in the wind, carrying old prayers or forgotten birthdays, sometimes both. You add one from your pocket, an old bit of twine you've carried since the last New Year. No words, just presence. Quirky tidbit. In remote Tang villages, it was common to tie fragments of old scrolls or seals to sacred trees in the hope that messengers, divine or imperial, would carry wishes directly to heaven. Historians still debate whether this was folk ritual or clever commentary on delivery delays. As you pass under the ribboned canopy, a small boy appears, running barefoot, holding a bamboo dragonfly toy. He stops short in front of you, eyes wide. Are you a scroll knight? You blink. A what? A scroll knight, the kind who carries secrets for the emperor. You smile faintly. No armor, no horse. But you look like one. You kneel, ruffle his hair. Maybe just for today. He nods solemnly and dashes off, as though having been knighted himself. You walk on, tracing the winding road toward the next village, Long Stream Crossing, if memory serves. A tiny place, more rumor than map point. But you've been through once before. You remember the food, grilled river eel, surprisingly delicate, and a side of pickled radish that could make a warlord weep. You're halfway down the road when you hear it. Thunk, thunk, thunk. A rhythmic clatter behind you. A courier cart approaches, pulled by a compact but determined mule. The driver spots you, tugs the reins, and waves. Need a ride? She calls. You hesitate. Walking feels right today. Then your feet say otherwise. You climb aboard. The cart creaks, bounces a little, and resumes its path. Inside, scattered scrolls, empty pouches, and 2 cracked tea mugs. You pick one up, raise an eyebrow. She shrugs. Relics? You smile. The driver introduces herself as Min. She's been riding this cart 3 years, ever since a magistrate's courier got lost in a wine cellar and never came back. She delivers everything from monastery donations to imperial tax receipts to one noble's weekly apology poems to his ex-wife in the mountains. He writes them in triplicate, she sighs, as if one version doesn't say enough. You ride in comfortable silence for a while, watching the hills roll by. Scrolls ever scare you? She asks. You pause. Sometimes. It's not what's in them. It's what they do to people. She nods slowly. Yeah. Then, after a moment, did you carry one today? You don't answer. She doesn't push. Fact. Some Tang couriers recorded their reflections on scrolls they never opened. These logs, rare, unsanctioned, are now studied for emotional context. One courier wrote, I did not know what it said, but I felt a kingdom shift in my bones. The cart rolls into Long Stream Crossing just as the evening bell rings. A cluster of tiled roofs, smoke curling from low chimneys, a public bath steaming gently in the town square. Children run between stalls. A dog steals a bao bun. No one seems to mind. Min pulls up beside a small inn. I stay here every 3rd night. You hop off, stretch, thank her. She tosses you a coin. For tea, not for secrets. Inside the inn, you find a quiet corner, a pot of jasmine tea, and a soft pillow for your back. You watch the sun lower through the window, its rays streaking the air like brushstrokes. The innkeeper's wife hums a lullaby to a baby who isn't quite convinced about sleep. You sip slowly. The road is quiet now. No scrolls in your pouch. No seals in your pocket. But a strange feeling stirs inside you, like there's a message left to carry, one without ink, one written in footsteps and memory. You've delivered the scroll. But the journey? It's still whispering. The next morning, you wake not to a rooster, but to the sound of soft rain tapping gently on the tiled roof above you. The kind of rain that doesn't rush or roar, just settles, like the village has agreed to be quiet together. You sit up slowly, stretch, and take stock. No scrolls, no sealed satchels, no instructions to deliver, stamp, bow, or run. Your shoulders ache with phantom weight. You half expect to find the gold-threaded scroll beside your pillow like some imperial ghost left you a thank you note. But there's nothing there, just the whisper of yesterday's footsteps. You dress and head downstairs. The innkeeper gives you a polite nod and points toward a steaming bowl waiting for you on the counter. Rice porridge with slices of boiled yam, a humble feast by postal standards. Already paid for, he says, gesturing vaguely toward the street. By a courier. Mule cart. Smelled like ink and bamboo. Min. You eat slowly, savoring each spoonful. You're in no rush. Not today. Outside, the village is beginning to stir. Rain glazes every tile and pebble in a soft sheen. You watch as a child drags a paper boat through a puddle. A cat curls beneath a lantern post, ears twitching with every drop. The day's route, whatever it may be, calls gently rather than demands. You head out of town without the usual rush. Just you, your staff, and the sound of rain tapping rhythm on your shoulders. About an hour past the village, you reach a fork in the road. There's no signpost, no marker, but you remember this place. A side trail, narrow and overgrown, leads to a tiny shrine nestled beside a waterfall. You've never had the time to visit before. Now you do. The path is muddy, your sandals squelch with every step, and a bird with very strong opinions scolds you from a nearby branch. You ignore it. The shrine is small, roof half collapsed, the statue within weather-worn but unmistakably familiar. A courier god, rare in the official pantheon, but worshipped in whispers. He stands barefoot, scroll tucked under one arm, the other hand raised not in blessing, but in delivery. You laugh, quietly. He understands. You leave behind the last of your travel bread, a single copper coin, and a silent thanks. Fact. While the Tang court had no formal messenger deity, local couriers often created their own rituals, shrines, charms, even small chants, to protect themselves and their messages. Some wore ink-dyed threads for luck. Others left plum blossoms at way stations for safe passage. The rain lightens. You take a winding shortcut back to the main road and find yourself following a line of footprints. Just one set. Fresh. Familiar. Someone's just ahead. You catch up by midday. A courier on foot, lean and swift, carrying a satchel that looks newly issued. She hears your steps and glances back. It's Lei, the courier who took the imperial scroll from you at the station. She smiles. "I thought I might see you again," she says. You nod. "Made your delivery?" She shrugs. "Got to the gate. Was told to hand it off. Didn't even get to know who opened it." You both fall into step together, boots thudding in the soft earth. "Ever think about what it said?" you ask. "All the time," she replies. "But not enough to go back and ask. Would you carry one again?" She grins. "Would you?" You pause. Consider it. "I think I already am," you say. She nods, as though she understands something even you haven't said yet. You reach a bend in the trail where the road splits once again. She takes the west path, you the north. No fanfare, no promises, just a wave, and two sets of footprints diverging in the wet soil. Quirky tidbit. Some Tang couriers developed personal routes of meaning, non-official paths they walked after major deliveries. Some went to family homes, others to temples. A few even walked backwards through sections of trail to symbolically undo the burden of what they'd carried. As you walk alone once more, the air clears. Mist lifts from the fields. The sky cracks open to reveal a beam of sunlight, slanting down onto the path ahead like a seal pressed in light. And for the first time in days, you feel it clearly. You're not carrying anything, but you're still moving forward, because that's what you do, because that's the work, because somewhere down the road, another scroll waits. You follow the north trail through a gently sloping orchard where plum trees line both sides of the path. Their fruits are just beginning to ripen, green fading into blushing red, and the sweet sour scent lingers in the air like memory left out in the sun. A farmer waves from a ladder. "Looking for someone?" You shake your head. "Not anymore." He grins. "Then you're lucky. Most people never stop looking." You tip your hat and walk on, boots crunching over fallen petals and yesterday's raindrops. The road here is old, cobbled, cracked, lined with weeds that grow like they're reclaiming territory letter by letter. Someone painted characters on a stone wall years ago, now faded to brushstroke ghosts. You pause just long enough to recognize the first two. Silence speaks. The rest is lost to lichen. You reach the edge of a terraced village, small but neat, each rooftop draped in drying laundry like colorful scrolls. A group of children run past you with paper kites shaped like rabbits. One trips, laughs, and immediately keeps going. You're not here to deliver anything, not officially. But your feet carry you toward the schoolhouse anyway, a narrow building with a red-painted door and a bamboo placard that reads, "Words hold weight." You remember this place. 3 years ago, you brought a scroll here, a letter from a father to his son. No imperial seal, no threat of exile, just 6 lines, neat and trembling. "I know I was not there, but I am proud, and I listen now." You never knew if it made a difference, but the boy who took it had tears in his eyes and hands like they'd never held anything that fragile before. Inside, a young teacher is writing characters on a chalkboard. She doesn't see you. That's fine. You leave a small note on her desk anyway. A courier passed through. Tell the stories well. You move on, passing a small temple with wind chimes made from broken brushes. They clatter gently, scribes' prayers echoing in the air. Fact: many courier routes intersected not only with administrative centers, but cultural ones: schools, scriptoriums, poetry houses. In this way, the postal network didn't just carry orders or taxes. It spread ideas, little by little, satchel by satchel. Beyond the village, the hills rolled downward again, green and gold under the afternoon sun. You find a stone bench at the trail's edge, half crumbled but just comfortable enough. You sit, stretch your legs, breathe. And for the first time in days, you take out your own scroll, the blank one the reader gave you. You stare at it, then, slowly, begin to write. Today, I carried nothing, but I remembered everything. The bridges I crossed, the faces I met, the scroll that changed nothing and maybe everything. You pause, then add, if someone finds this, leave it somewhere dry. Maybe the rain has read enough. You fold the scroll, place it gently inside a crevice in the stone bench, and press a small rock over it. Not hidden, not offered, just left. The wind picks up, rustling the tall grass, and the smell of ginger and pine smoke drifts from somewhere unseen. You rise, dust your robe, and continue walking. Ahead, a monk passes you on the trail, holding a wooden box marked fragile. You nod. He nods. Nothing else needs to be said. Because you're both in the same line of work, really. Message carriers, pilgrims of parchment, witnesses to the quiet weight of words. Quirky tidbit: some Tang couriers retired into monasteries, claiming the road had taught them enough philosophy for a lifetime. Others became teachers, weaving lessons from years of overheard dispatches and half-glimpsed revolutions. You walk until the sun begins to drop, the light stretching like a soft silk ribbon across the fields. A lantern flickers in the distance, another way station, another chance to stop, to rest, to listen. You wonder who's waiting there, or if anyone's waiting at all. It doesn't matter. You're going anyway, because even without a scroll, you still carry something. The road narrows again, folding into a grove of pine and cedar, the ground muffled with needles and the scent of tree sap warming in the dusk. The light now comes almost entirely from your small oil lamp, its glow bobbing ahead of your steps like a little sun afraid of the dark. You pass a moss-covered milestone. No markings, no numbers. Just a smooth stone, half buried in the earth, quietly declaring, you're still going. Your pace has slowed. Not from fatigue, though your legs certainly have their complaints, but because you've learned the rhythm of this work. Some parts demand urgency. Others invite reverence. And tonight is for reverence. The trees part once more, revealing a final stretch of trail lined with paper lanterns suspended between posts like glowing punctuation marks leading to a quiet conclusion. Someone set these here, not for fanfare, for tradition. You follow them. The path opens onto a terrace overlooking a valley, the sky now thick with stars. Below, scattered points of light from hamlets tucked into the hills. Smoke from cook fires curls upward, joining the clouds in silence. There's a bench here. You sit. Not because you must, but because this is the kind of place where a courier pauses, not just passes. You remove your shoes. Let your feet feel the coolness of the stone. You let the satchel straps of memory loosen. The letter is long gone, but the journey, that still hums through your bones. You think of Judge Pang's terrible haiku. You remember the bandit's song. You think of Lei, riding into the dusk with the gold thread scroll and a question still sealed inside it. You wonder what it said. You wonder what it didn't say. Historians still argue whether Tang couriers ever changed history, not by delivering messages, but by choosing not to. Letters burned, scrolls misplaced, roads accidentally missed. It's said that once, a single day's delay cost a rebellion its momentum, or saved an innocent life. You stare at the stars until your breath slows, your mind unwinds, and your body softens against the stone. You're no longer carrying anything, not even your own thoughts. Just breath, just stillness, just the quiet truth that, for all its grand palaces, emperors, generals, and poets, history moves on 2 feet, often sore, usually muddy, occasionally barefoot, and sometimes, in rare and gentle hours like this one, those feet stop walking just long enough to listen. Wind rustles through the tall grass. A single lantern flickers and goes out. A fox barks once in the distance, then vanishes. You close your eyes. The message has been delivered. The scroll has been unburdened. And you? You're finally, completely at rest. And now, as you sit there beneath the stars, toes curled over cool stone, lantern light dimming into gentle shadow, the world begins to slow. The road behind you fades like a dream, its dust settling, its footsteps softening into memory. You've walked long, carried much, and spoken little. But that's the way of things, isn't it? Some stories aren't written in ink, but in the hush between conversations, in the pause before handing over a scroll, in the silence after someone asks, "Do you know what you're carrying?" The wind is quieter now. It brushes the leaves above you with the same care you used to untie knots, to press seals, to shoulder burdens that weren't always yours to understand. You've done your part. The journey is complete. And whatever message was sealed in that gold-threaded scroll, whether it ended a war, began a love story, or was just an imperial complaint about soup temperature, it's no longer yours to hold. All that's left is rest. So let your eyes close gently. Let the stars overhead drift into soft watercolor shapes. Let your breath find a slower rhythm, like the pages of a scroll unfurling in the dark. You are no longer the courier tonight. You are the story. You are the pause. You are the quiet between messages. Sleep well, messenger. You've delivered more than you know.